So, just last night I was at a little holiday party and we received some random gifts. Some of them were re-gifts. And I received this book by Barbara Cohen. It's called Fat Jack. And I skimmed through it and it looked horrendous. It looked like one of the worst written books that I've ever seen in my life, basically. It looked really terrible. Like, really, truly terrible. And so I thought it might be funny to basically do, like an audiobook read through of this book with my reactions to how fucking awful it is. So I'm not going to edit this at all. I'm not, Anyway, let's get into it, shall we? "The past is prologue," I quoted. "Who said that?" Jack laughed. "I don't know. You haven't changed. In high school you were always referring to some writer or another." "Usually mistakenly," I reminded him. "Mr. Scharf had to correct me more than once. Of course, no one else ever knew I was a phony." "You weren't a phony," Jack disagreed vehemently. "If you were, you'd never be able to say so." "I don't know if I'd have said so then," I pointed out. "I have little perspective on those days now, but I haven't gotten over them." "A person never gets over high school, Judy," he said. His voice was as deep and gentle as it had been all those years ago. "That's what your quotation means." "I know." I took a deep sip of the beautiful French Burgundy he brought with him, far too generous a gift for the dinner of chili and salad I'd served him. Oh my gosh, I already fucking hate both of these characters. Like this Jack character is just so idolized in this main character's mind, and it's just, oh man, it's so annoying. Okay. Fuck this, dude. Okay. Our need to be just like each other was obsessive," he continued, frowning with the effort to find the words that truly said what we had been then. "Nothing mattered to us but what went on in our own enclosed little world. Are high school kids still that way?" Ugh. "My own kids haven't gotten there yet," I hedged. "The pendulum swings back and forth, I guess, though adolescents can't help but be self-absorbed." "Mr. Scharf was different from us." Idly, Jack picked at his salad. "He didn't care what other people thought." I shook my head. "He cared." "All right," Jack admitted. "But in his own way." "Was he at the reunion?" "No. After what happened, I didn't really expect him. But I had hoped you'd come." "Me?" He laughed. "I live 3,000 miles away, and there was no meeting as there is this year to make the trip tax deductible. You're the only person I went to high school with that I ever wanted to see again anyway." I smiled back at him. "I'm glad you called. I'm glad you stopped over. I've thought of you often." "Have you?" He sounded as if he didn't quite believe me, but I was telling the truth. "Still," I added, "I should have thought you'd have wanted to see the others too." "Why?" To show them all how you made it." "Made it?" He laughed again. "I'm an ink-stained scribbler. Oh, fuck this. Fuck! God! Oh! God, I fucking hate... Oh, my gosh. Oh, I hate this author. Fuck, I hate this author so much. Okay. Jesus fucking Christ. I can't get all the way through this book. I'm only doing chapter 1. I can't read through a whole book of this. This is terrible. This is so fucking terrible. Jesus fucking Christ on a fucking skateboard, dude. I want to kill myself. Okay. "Made it?" He laughed again. "I'm an ink-stained scribbler. Do you think to them that's making it?" "A TV scriptwriter with 3 Emmys to his credit? I'd think they'd call that making it. And what about your beautiful wife? Didn't you want to show them those pictures of her you showed me just now?" His eyebrows shot up. "Do you really think she's beautiful?" "Certainly," I replied. "Don't you?" "Of course I do," he responded quickly. "But I'm surprised that you do." "Why?" I couldn't imagine what he was talking about. Because, he said, she looks rather like you. And you were always telling me in those days how plain you were. You haven't forgotten anything, I replied, trying to keep my tone light. I told you, we never get over high school, he answered quietly. I went back to the reunion. They all remembered that play, I said. They talked about it as much as they did the football team's Group 2 championship that year. They all remembered you. I'll bet. His voice was sharply ironic. He picked up the wine bottle and refilled our glasses. I'll tell you something, I said. That play was my happiest time in my 4 years of high school. I'll tell you something, he countered. It was my only happy time in 4 years of high school. There, at the end, it was a little bit of time that made some sense. But then it all ended so badly. Not for you, I said. It ended well for you. What? Cried, his voice suddenly crackling with anger. How can you say that, Judy? My God, you betrayed me. Have you forgotten? I? My voice was furious at his. I betrayed you? If there was any betraying done, you did it. In all these years, I've never held that against you. I didn't blame you. The anger in his eyes faded, to be replaced by a look of bewilderment. It was a look I hadn't seen there all evening. I thought he had lost it, along with about 100 pounds. He hadn't, not entirely. What are you saying, Judy? I don't understand what you're saying. I patted his hand, as I used to do. We saw it differently, I said. It's just one of those cases in which two people saw the same thing differently. Perhaps, he offered with some slight hesitation. Perhaps we didn't even see the same thing. Now I was bewildered. What do you mean? He stood up, taking the wine bottle and his glass with him. Shall we sit by the fire? He asked. I'm cold. I'm not used to this climate anymore. Sure. I rose too and carried my glass with me. We'll go over it, he said. We'll go over the whole thing. That is, if you have the time. Oh, I have the time. Neil and the kids were away, skiing. I was glad for the 1000th time I had never allowed them to talk me into taking up the sport. I adored the three of them with all the considerable passion of which I was capable, but it was wonderful to be able to count on 4 or 5 long weekends all to myself every winter. I had as much time as it would take to spread out our memories. I had all night. Alright. This shit fucking sucks so bad. Oh my gosh. Barbara thinks she's so fucking clever. For starting off her first chapter with the dialogue line, the past is a prologue, but her prologue is set in the future. Oh, you're so fucking clever, Barbara. Fuck you. Write better fucking characters and dialogue. Jesus. This sucks. Oh my gosh. I don't know if I can keep... I'm gonna keep going. This shit sucks. Okay. Margot and Joan had the locker next to mine and Carla's. Jack had a locker all to himself. It was on the other side of Margot and Joan's. He had come to our high school in October and had been assigned a locker that had just been repaired. It's a good thing, too, Margot had whispered to Joan after her first glimpse of their neighbor. It's a good thing no one shares that locker with him. Did people share lockers? What? His coat's got to be so big to get over that enormous body of his that no one else's coat could fit in, not even Bobby Earl's. Though Bobby was only 5'3" and weighed maybe 120 pounds, no one had seriously teased him since he'd beat up Matt Farkas in the empty lot on Berkeley Street when we were all in 8th grade. It's true Bobby had used his elbows and his head and done a good deal of punching below the belt, but no one had held that against him. God, shut up. Oh my gosh. God, no one cares. Why do you think anyone cares about any of this bullshit? Okay. Fucking Barbara, dude. Okay. Joan screwed her mouth and nose into an expression of disgust, but even that did not spoil the beauty of her exquisite little face. Weird thing to say about your friend. I think he smells, she said quietly. I think he really smells. As the months of our senior year wore by, Margot ceased lowering her voice, while Jack stood next to her, struggling with his combination lock, which had not really been fixed properly. She'd make her comments... Hold on. Oh, man. I thought I had a sneeze coming on, then it went away. Blue balls. I feel like there should be an equivalent. There should be, like, a term for this feeling, right? When you feel like you have to sneeze, but then it doesn't come, you know what I mean? Because it does feel like blue balls in a way, or like, you know, like something was supposed to happen and it didn't, right? You could say blue nose, or maybe something having to do with anticipation, the sneeze that failed to happen. Ghost sneeze? I don't know. Anyway. I'm just trying to entertain myself because this book is so boring. Alright. While Jack stood next to her, struggling with his combination lock, which had not really been fixed properly, she'd made her comments in a stage whisper he couldn't help overhearing. What's that, Joan? What's that, Joan? She'd say. What's that I smell? Do you think something's going on in the chem lab? Something unusually unpleasant? Joan would nod seriously and then turn to me. Do you smell it, Judy? I'm sure you do. Your nose is at least as good as your brain. I didn't have the guts to answer Joan. She was the queen of Carbondale High School, and I didn't care to cross her. I was actually rather flattered if she spoke to me at all. But I wasn't totally without courage. I didn't feel required to agree with her. I just kept quiet. It's as if a skunk got in the building somehow. Margot would take up the litany. She was nothing if not persistent. Don't you smell it? It's funny. But I didn't notice it until Jack came over to his locker. Isn't that the oddest thing? Every day they would go through some similar routine. One day the smell was a horse barn, while the other day it reminded them of rotten eggs. Margot was Margot was quite creative when it came to thinking up things she could compare Jack's body odor to. A horse barn and rotten eggs are so creative. Wow. I'm gonna kill myself. And of course, none of what she said was true. Jack was uncommonly large, it was true, but he was immaculately clean. His white shirts were always starched and spotless, his wide khaki pants ironed with a crease in them. Somewhere, Jack had a mother who cared. Then why aren't they just making fun of him for being fat? Whatever. Jack ignored Joan and Margot. It was all he could do. To have commented on the remarks would have been demeaning, and would only have increased their number in malice. And he couldn't very well sock them. They were girls. Okay. Weird thing. Okay. I guess so. What the fuck? Okay, sure. Besides, I wondered if it's besides might not be so early that they wouldn't even try to sock. You might only hit the wall behind them. Shut up. God damn it. Actually, Jack ignored everyone. He did his work. In fact, so far as I can tell from question in history class, he did his work very well. Otherwise, he kept to himself. He ate lunch alone, walked the halls alone. He was so quiet that had he been small. As a senior transfer, totally escaped their notice. His size made him the alive of jokes. He did not seem to have any long or humor of merely wavish. Before Jack's arrived, fattest person in class. Merely fits easily into the expected class clown, giving us good astonishing God when it came to mock out, put down. This seemed Jack seemed too shy, or perhaps simply had something unwilling to do. See, literally on the same page. She's like Jack and Margot, commented on the Margot would meaning and but literally, I guess this very not necessarily a representation of that. It's like it's an alternate could have done. But you're just contradicting yourself.
walked toward the march on one of those early February days, when the weeks until spring vacation stretched endlessly and boringly in front of us.
We wanted to put away our morning books and get out the afternoon supply. Margot and Joan were there before us. I hadn't noticed them in lunch. Now, at their locker, I could see that Margot was carrying a paper bag from Simon's drugstore down on Main Street. She and Joan had obviously gone out during lunch. That was against the rules, but a shopping trip wasn't hard for either of them to pull off. No hall monitor, student, or teacher would have dreamed of questioning either of them. Margot smiled at me as I came toward her. "Hey, Judy," she cried. "Look at this." She opened her paper bag and held out a jar of Arid deodorant. "I'm going to hang it on Jack's locker. He'll get the message." "It's strange, Margot," I managed to say, "but I've never smelled any odor when Jack's around. He always seems clean enough to me." Joan frowned and shook her head very slightly. "Oh, Judy, you're wrong," Carla interposed hastily. "I smell it. I smell it all the time." "Carla's nose is better than yours," Joan said. "I'm surprised at that." "Actually," Margot said, "we're doing Jack a favor. He doesn't know enough to use a deodorant, and we're telling him. It's something only a friend would do." It's just such generic, boring ass dialogue. Like, none of these people are, none of these people feel like real people saying real things that real people would say. It's just so fucking, oh gosh. I said nothing, cursing myself all the while for my cowardice. I had nothing to fear from Joan and Margot. They could make snide remarks, but they couldn't shake my position in Carbondale High School. It was unassailable. Even if they wanted to assail it, which they didn't. Here we go. Can't wait for this part. I was Judith Goldstein, feature editor of the school newspaper, grandmother or old aunt in every class play, and a pushover when it came to lending out lab notes or trig homework for copying. In those... God, she fucking sucks. This is our main character? Fuck. Oh my gosh. In those days, when smart girls kept their brains well hidden, it wasn't a position anyone envied me. But I didn't have any enemies, and wasn't likely to acquire them in the less than 5 months left of my high school career. On the other hand, I had carved out my niche painfully, and I didn't care to jeopardize it. So I didn't tell Joan and Margot I thought they were finks. I did not announce to them that Jack's heavily fleshed, pale body and his soft, curly brown, shiny hair were as clean and odorless as their own. Instead, I turned to my locker and ignored them as I pawed through the mess in the bottom to find the English assignment I thought I had left in my notebook. Surely one of those girls wears perfume, right? Come on. Whatever. Anyway. Missed opportunity, Barbara. Okay. "You kids got a piece of string?" Margot asked. "Yeah, sure," Carla said. She reached above me to the shelf at the top of the locker and took down the shoebox in which she kept her pictures of Elvis Presley. Her mother didn't approve of her passion, which was why the box was stored in her school locker. She untied the string that held the box together and handed it to Margot. Margot tried to fix the string around the jar, but she couldn't get it to stay. She was giggling almost uncontrollably, which might have accounted for her inability to steady her hand. "My God, you're so clumsy," Joan said. She took the string and the jar out of Margot's hands, but her knots, too, kept coming undone as soon as she tugged at the string's free end. "Here, let me try," Carla said. With speed and agility, she secured one end of the string to the jar, and the other to the handle of Jack's locker with 2 slip knots. "My goodness," Joan said with mock admiration. "Aren't you the Girl Scout?" "I was, for 7 years," Carla replied seriously. "I only quit when I was a sophomore." "I don't know why you did that," Margot said. "You must have made a very good Girl Scout. You still would." "Well, I thought I'd gotten too old for them," Carla said. Oh no," Margot replied. "Never. You'll never be too old for the Girl Scouts." Her voice was smiling and kind, and her eyes were narrow and cold. Carla only noticed the voice. "Thanks, Margot," she said. "I'm glad I could help." "Well, thank you," Margot replied. "Come into the girls' room with us. We're going to peek around the door To see oh my gosh. Uh. This is so fucking annoying. Everything about this book is so annoying. Oh my gosh. Why did I do this to myself? Why did I decide to do this? This is terrible. This is so bad. This is really, really bad. We're going to peek around the door to see Jack's reaction when he notices our little gift. Then she took a pencil and scribbled a note on the paper bag the deodorant had come in. She attached the bag to Jack's locker door handle by punching a hole in it. You know, Carla, I said, I wish you'd get rid of those Elvis pictures. They take up too much room. You're getting too old for that kind of thing anyway. Yeah, Carla said, a slight note of hesitancy in her voice. Maybe I am. Oh no, Joan said. Never. Carla, you will never be too old to love Elvis. You just leave those pictures right where they are. It's your locker as much as Judy's. What? I guess it's just the schools were poor. But, like, sharing lockers is a crazy thing to me. Was that a real thing? Well, you know, sometimes you read a terrible book and you learn something new. I guess places shared lockers for some reason. I guess some schools had shared lockers. Odd. Quickly obedient, Carla placed the shoebox back on the shelf of our locker. You just leave them be, she said to me with unaccustomed severity. Then she, Joan, and Margot marched off together to the girls' room on the opposite side of the hall and disappeared through the door. Once they were gone, I found my English assignment without any difficulty. I stood up and shook the cramps out of my legs, then glanced over to the girls' room. The door was tightly closed. Neither Joan, Margot, nor Carla were peeking around its edge yet. I sidled over a few steps to Jack's locker and glanced at the note Margot had written. In big black block letters it read, "A word of advice from a friend. Use the contents of this jar. You need it." The deodorant's in a jar? I guess it's yeah, I don't know, different times. How old is this book? It's like 70s? 60s? 70s? 80s. 1980. Early 1980. There you go. The bell rang, signaling the end of the lunch period. I glanced again at the girls' room door. It was open now, open the barest crack. I felt as if I could see Argo's wide, icy blue eyes staring at me. Without touching either the note or the jar, I walked off down the hall, but I didn't go far. I slipped into the nearest classroom and kept my eyes on Jack's locker, too. It seemed to me that no 5-minute segment of time had ever passed more slowly than those moments between B lunch and 5th period. But in that whole endless 5-minute stretch, Jack never came near his locker. When the warning bell sounded, Joan, Margot, and Carla tore out of the girls' room and down the hall to their classes. After they had passed, I left the room I was in, holding my head high and not even glancing at Herr Kraus, or the members of the German fun class, who must have been wondering what the devil I was doing there. Of course, I was late for my class. But since it had never happened before, Miss De Lorenzo didn't say anything. English was my favorite subject. Miss De Lorenzo was the best English teacher I'd ever had, and we were reading She Stoops to Conquer, which is a very funny play. But that day I paid no attention to what Miss De Lorenzo or anyone else was saying. I couldn't erase from my mind the picture of that jar of deodorant hanging from the handle of Jack's locker door. Toward the end of the period, though, Mary Alice Cartwright made a comment I did hear, and I heard Miss De Lorenzo's reply, too. Mary Alice had raised her hand, and Miss De Lorenzo had nodded to her. Before she spoke, Mary Alice tossed her blonde curls in a flirtatious gesture. She always flirted, even when speaking to a 35-year-old female English teacher. Miss De Lorenzo... I should be a little more horny. Miss De Lorenzo... Mary Alice simpered. I think it would be awfully nice if this year for the senior class play, you did the one we're reading now. Then we'd all get a chance to wear pretty costumes. The rest of the class groaned. We were not as enamored of Oliver Goldsmith as were Mary Alice and I, for entirely different reasons. Mary Alice had decided years ago that she would perform the leading female role in the senior class play, convinced that her Debbie Reynolds good looks more than compensated for any lack of dramatic training or significant experience. And because she was quite tall and very slender, she would indeed, as she well knew, look perfectly lovely in the small-waisted, full-skirted gowns of the late 18th century. Miss De Lorenzo smiled. Thanks for the suggestion, Mary Alice. However, we never do a costume play. We can't afford it. Besides, I have a confession to make. She blinked rapidly and blushed a little, two entirely unexpected reactions in a skinny, long-nosed, sharp-tongued Miss De Lorenzo. I won't be doing the senior play this year. Gasp! The response of the class to her statement was total amazement, and it was written on every face. Miss De Lorenzo had directed the senior class play from time immemorial. That's a dog whistle. She's a Zionist. It was always a comedy. It was always an unqualified success. Somehow, no matter how thin the talent with which she had to work, Miss De Lorenzo managed to cajole, push, and scream in just the right ways required to force comic performances out of Charlie horsed football players, overdeveloped cheerleaders, and myopic grinds with acne on their faces. Myopic grinds? Fuck you, Barbara. Appearing in plays was not one of the status activities at Carbondale High. Not until one's senior year, that is, when those of us who'd played to a half-empty auditorium in the freshman, sophomore, and junior plays were shunted aside by the president of the class and the captain of the basketball team, all vying for roles in the reworking of some recent Broadway hit that Miss De Lorenzo directed. Not do the play? Mary Alice's face was a study in shocked disappointment. But, Miss De Lorenzo, you've always done the play. Not always, Miss De Lorenzo retorted, reverting to her customary acid style. Contrary to popular opinion, I have not been at Carbondale High School since the day it opened its doors in 1909, and I do not intend to be here the day that it closes its doors, whenever that may happen to be. She paused for dramatic effect. Next Saturday, she announced, her voice firm and clear, I am getting married. She's telling this to her class a week before? That's interesting. Because is she not going on a honeymoon? That seems like you should tell your class before then. Pandemonium exploded in room 212. The janitors must have been able to hear us in the furnace room. Miss De Lorenzo? Getting married? Tony Lazzuto? Okay, it doesn't say Tony. But how could she? She was so old. She had been single for... sorry, how old is Miss De Lorenzo? Why did it say how old Miss De Lorenzo? 35. She's 35. She was so old? She's 35. What? What? Wow. Man, 1980 was a different time, huh? 35. And she's saying she was so old. That's crazy. Anyway. That is fucking crazy. She had been single forever. Brides were never more than 22 years old. Brides were never more than 22 years old, and they were always pretty soft and yielding. Miss De Lorenzo was 35 if she was a day, and plain and tough and stiff-backed. Wow! Wow! This is... this is crazy! Holy shit. We loved her, but we didn't... loved her, but we didn't expect anyone else to. Did a nun leave the convent? Then how could Miss De Lorenzo leave us? What? Dog, what the fuck? I am astounded a little bit. Okay. Next to amazement, our reaction was one of chagrin. Oh, vocab word. Good job, Barbara. Chagrin. How come we hadn't known? How come no rumor of Miss De Lorenzo's love life had come to our attention? How had she... God, she just keeps using semicolons, and I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. Oh, man. Somebody's drama posting in the A2P2 chat. I'm not going to look at it right now. Where was I? Next to amazement, our reaction was one of chagrin. How come we hadn't known? How come no rumor of Miss De Lorenzo's love life had come to our attention? How had she managed to date without our learning anything about it? These should be separate questions. Why would you separate those with a semicolon? That is not. Okay. Fuck you, dude. Fuck you, Barbara. Okay. Fucking Barbara. We knew that Mr. Gottlieb and Miss Fawcett went for drinks at Yancey's pub. We knew that Mr. Carlyle took his wife and 3 kids to matinees of Walt Disney movies whenever one played at the Alden Theater. Carbondale was a small town. We knew everything, or we thought we did. How had Miss De Lorenzo achieved a complete and successful courtship totally out of our view? I looked at Miss De Lorenzo's left hand. So did every other girl in the class. It was bare. She must have noticed our glances. Smiling slyly, she pulled a chin from inside her high-necked blouse. Dangling on the end of it was a diamond ring. She slipped the chain off her neck, took the ring off the chain, and put it on the 3rd finger of her left hand. The diamond in the ring was large and brilliant, a far cry from the grain-sized stones sported triumphantly by the occasional engaged senior girl. Let that one sink in, huh, folks? Who is he? Sorry, that's not the Craig Mulholland voice. Who is he? Craig Mulholland at last had the nerve to ask. He's from Mount Carmel, Miss De Lorenzo said. You wouldn't know him. Tell us who he is anyway, Craig insisted. We have to know what to call you when you get back from your honeymoon. No honeymoon, Miss De Lorenzo informed us. I'll be back here Monday. Try not to be too disappointed. No honeymoon? Mary Alice asked. A bride has to have a honeymoon. Mary Alice, Miss De Lorenzo said, when you're my age, you don't fool around. You just get on with it. I want to kill myself. You still haven't said his name, Craig reminded her. Anthony Cardillo. I call him Tony. Mrs. Cardillo. Mrs. Cardillo. Mary Alice was trying it out. That sounds nice. He must be rich, Carla muttered to me. Look at the size of the diamond. Miss De Lorenzo wasn't meant to hear Carla's remark. Karl Marx? Karl Marx? Is this a communist? Is this actually a communist dog whistle? Maybe Barbara's actually... Okay, alright. We all know Barbara's not based. And she doesn't have good politics, and I'm just... Alright, anyway, moving on. He does alright, she said. He's in the real estate business. You got a picture? Mary, I shouldn't use that voice for the girl who's explicitly been mentioned as being fat. I'm just gonna use a regular girl voice. You got a picture? Mary Ravitch called out. Mary had a lot of nerve too. Miss De Lorenzo was in a very good mood. Like the rest of us, she seemed to have forgotten all about She Stoops to Conquer. What a stupid name. She Stoops to Conquer. That's not real, is it? Please tell me that's not a real play. That somebody actually titled She Stoops to Conquer. She Stoops to Conquer. Let me look it up. Oh, it is 1773 comedic play by Oliver Goldsmith. About Kate Hardcastle, who pretends to be a barmaid to woo her shy suitor Charles Marlowe. Oh, so it's a metaphor for the obviously. After he mistakes her home for an inn, leading to hilarious deceptions and social satire about class and romance, culminating in a happy resolution where true character triumphs over first impressions. Whatever, I'm not gonna read that shit. It's from 1773. Where the fuck was I? She opened her desk drawer, pulled out her pocketbook, and fished inside of it for her wallet. When she found it, she opened it and held it up so that those of us in the front could get a good look at the picture next to her driver's license. The man in the picture was not young. He was graying at the temples, but he was extraordinarily handsome, with great dark eyes, curly dark hair, and an amused half smile. Why do I feel like this is Jack's dad? I feel like this is Jack's dad. I feel like the curly hair is hinting at that it's Jack's dad. It probably is. Anyway. Wow, Carla whispered to me again. Rich and good-looking. If Miss De Lorenzo heard her this time, she didn't let on. But Miss De Lorenzo... Mary Alice's shrill voice. I just keep thinking of the Tony Lazzuto bit. Mary Alice's shrill voice rose above the others. If you're going to be back here on Monday, why can't you do the play? Look, Mary Alice, Miss De Lorenzo said. This job has been my life. It's occupied me day and night, especially during rehearsals. But from now on, it's only a job. Tony doesn't mind my working. Oh, misogyny time. Tony doesn't mind my working. He doesn't expect me to start cooking and cleaning at this stage of my life. But he'd like to see me once in a while, and I'd like to see him. Otherwise, what's the point of our getting married? Shut up. Shut up, dude. Fuck. Fucking 1980 when you could just be like, yeah, I'm married now, so I'm gonna not have a job anymore cause my husband is, I mean, there are still people that can do that these days if their husband is sufficiently, wealthy. I'm just gonna give up on having a purpose in life and doing anything. Dude, I'm so sick. I'm so sick of this shit. Fucking Barbara, man. Oh my gosh. Just the baked in fucking misogyny is just so grating. And the characters are just so one note. Like, there's no... Oh, fuck me, dude. Fuck me. No... You want to know what the next line is? No one could argue with that. Literally, fuck off, Barbara. Fuck you. For a moment, the room was silent as we had digested what she had said. And then Craig, who was president... She's so old! She's 35! Fuck you. And then Craig, who was president of the class, asked another question. Who will direct the play? If I were you, Miss De Lorenzo said, I'd ask Mr. Scharf. Mr. Scharf? Craig frowned. Mr. Scharf is new this year. And he's kept his talents as a director a well-concealed secret, Miss De Lorenzo said. He didn't want the pressure of a play his first year on a new job. But we're friends, and I found out. He majored in drama in college, and he directed shows in the job he had before he came here, out in Kansas or Oklahoma or someplace like that. If he doesn't want to do a show, Craig began. I knew what Craig was feeling. Mr. Scharf seemed trying to turn the page, but my kitty is on my lap now, so it's more difficult. Was an unlikely prospect. He was a short, thin man with large, protuberant blue eyes, thinning blonde hair, and a not unpleasant but cool and distant manner. It was like the only thing you had to communicate that you needed to say to communicate that he was an unlikely prospect was that he had a cool, distant manner about him. And when he showed up in person, you could describe him visually. Whatever. He was the librarian. He was the librarian, and that was odd in itself. He was the first male librarian in the history of Carbondale High School. In his job, he had contact with few students on a regular basis. What? If you asked him a question, he answered it, completely and competently, and there were certainly no discipline problems in his library. There was something authoritative, almost forbidding, about his presence. He never initiated a conversation with a student, and he never said a word more to one than he had to say. Okay. He's weakening, Miss De Lorenzo answered Craig's implied question. He just moved into a new apartment, so he could use the money. The money from directing the play? The senior play always produced a large profit, and from that sum, $250 was given to the director. I guess. $250, man. $250 is a huge profit, huh? What a time to be alive. There was still between $500 and $1,000 left over to defray the costs of the senior prom and the trip to the beach the next day. Miss De Lorenzo's announcement of her impending marriage and unavailability for the senior play was the first unexpected thing that happened at Carbondale High School in my senior year, perhaps in my entire high school career. Nothing interesting ever happened until I was a senior in high school, and this special boy came into my life. Ah! The thing I really couldn't stand about my life in those days was its utter predictability. I used to look forward to the printers messing up at the copy for my page of the Carbondale highlights. At least that provided some variety, some challenge in my life. One of the reasons teenagers sometimes get into trouble is that much of adolescent life is exquisitely boring. Which doesn't mean that nothing happened. There were fights, girls got pregnant, boys got expelled, the team won or lost this or that game, Susie A broke up with Billy B and started going out with Tommy C, but none of these events ever happened to me. Furthermore, they were within the expected scheme of things. I had always known that they, or things like them, were going to happen. Miss De Lorenzo's marriage was different. I felt excited. I felt on the verge of big things. This is so stupid. This is so stupid. This is so stupid. This is so... Who would, like... What high schooler... So she's literally talked about how self-centered high schoolers are. And apparently this high schooler looks back on her freshman, sophomore, and junior year of high school and is like, nothing happened. It was all boring. Nothing mattered. People got pregnant. Who cares? And this random teacher is getting married at the age of 35. And she's like, whoa, this is important. This matters. This is like who, what high schooler would ever think that? So stupid. So fucking stupid. Where the fuck was I? Okay, on the verge of big things. Because you're dumb. Because you felt like you were on the verge of big things because you're stupid. However, I hadn't forgotten the jar of deodorant. When the bell rang signaling the end of the period, many kids in the class, instead of leaping to their feet and rushing out the door in their usual fashion, lingered to continue their discussion of the surprising turn in Miss De Lorenzo's life. But I left as soon as I could. I rushed down the hall to our lockers. Jack still had not arrived. The deodorant and the message-bearing paper bag were still exactly where Margot and Joan had put them. I turned to the girls' room behind me. The door was tightly closed. Joan, Margot, my quondam friend, Carla. Quondam. What does that mean? Like former? My quondam friend. Okay, yeah. Carla used to be her friend. So quondam Quondam. I've never read this word before. My quondam friend. Presumably it means former friend. Joan, Margot, my quondam friend Carla. None of them had arrived yet. Fortunately, Margot and Joan had classes well on the other side of the building. Hopefully they were killing themselves so they're not characters in this story anymore. They might not be able to make it to their observation post at all before the next period began. I wasn't really worried about Carla. Quickly I turned back to Jack's locker. I put my books down on the floor and with nervous fingers began to undo the string, but my hands were shaking so much that I couldn't manage to untie the knot. I tugged at the string, hoping to break it, but all I accomplished was to pull the knot tighter. Behind me, I heard a deep, soft voice. I didn't recognize it. "What are you doing?" the voice asked. Oh, the voice asked it mildly. "What are you doing?" the voice asked mildly. I turned guiltily. It was Jack. I hadn't known his voice was so full and rich. I had heard him speak before in history class. Fuck you, Barbara. I hadn't known his voice was so full and rich. I had heard him speak before in history class, but I hadn't separated his attractive voice from his unattractive body. Only when I heard it without seeing him did I realize how beautiful it was. "I'm sorry, Jack," I said. I moved aside so that he could see the deodorant and the note on his locker door. He glanced at the writing and then with a quick, furious gesture, he tore the bag off the door, crumpled it in his hand, and threw it on the floor. When he tugged at the string holding the deodorant, it broke immediately. He held the jar out to me. I shook my head. "Take it." Oh no, he said this. "Take it," he said. "It's yours." "How can you think that?" I retorted sharply. "I was trying to get it off before you saw it." I glanced around me hastily. "Let's get out of here before the people who did put it on your locker show up." I picked up my books and walked quickly down the hall. He followed after me, still clutching the jar of deodorant. "Here, give me that," I said. I took it from him, stepped inside the nearest classroom, and threw it in the wastebasket in front of the room. "I'm sorry," Jack said when I came out into the hall again. He just immediately accepts that it wasn't her. He was waiting for me and had to move aside his huge bulk, which nearly blocked the doorway. I started walking. He matched his stride to mine. "What are you sorry about?" I asked testily. "That I accused you of something you didn't do," he said. "It was a natural assumption," I admitted, "given the position you saw me in." "I really didn't think you'd do something like that," Jack said. "I thought it was more the kind of trick Margot would pull." I didn't answer. I didn't like Margot or Joan, but I wasn't about to betray them. "Okay." And Jack didn't expect me to. Besides, it wasn't necessary. He knew. "Anyway, thanks," Jack went on. "Thanks for trying to save my feelings. You didn't have to. I'm not very sensitive." "I can scarcely believe that," I replied. "Let's put it this way." "Okay, hold on. Let's put it this way," he said wryly. "I have enough flesh to keep my feelings well covered." But what a joker! What a hilarious jokester Fat Jack is, huh? Man, what a cow! What a guy! Oh man, we all love Jack. Fuck you, Barbara. I hope Barbara's dead. So, anyway, whatever. I hope Barbara's dead, that's all. I mean, presumably so this was a person who authored a shitty, like, high school drama romance book in 1980, which was 45 years ago, right? She could be alive. She could be alive still. Barbara Cohen, huh? Well, we'll look her up. For some reason, I feel like I would rather speak ill of the dead than speaking ill of the living. Wait a minute. Oh no,
I just without thinking just looked up Barbara Gordon instead of Barbara Cohen because my brain just defaulted to fucking. Oh, she's dead. She's dead. She died in 92. Well, there you go. Wait, so she was. Whoa. Wait, so she. 50. So she was 48 when she wrote this book for children. She was 58 when she wrote this book for children. And she died at the... Wait, no, not 58. 48. She was 48 when she wrote this book for children. And then she died at the age of 60. What did she die of? I mean, hey, like, you know, there's nothing wrong with writing children's literature, but, like, man. This shit sucks. Like, it's really bad. It's really, really bad. There are some things that I'm not gonna say. Alright, let's move on. Where the fuck did I leave off? Okay. So he could make jokes about himself. I didn't know whether that was a good thing or a bad thing. How did you not... Okay, whatever. Good, I guess. Surely anything one can make light of is easier to bear. We came to the library, and Jack paused by the door. I stopped too. I go in here now, he said. How come? I asked. What the fuck? We had to report to study hall first and get a pass from the teacher if we wanted to spend a period in the library. I signed up as a library aide, he said. I didn't feel like sitting around in a study hall 6th period every day. I never get anything done in a study hall anyway. I nodded my agreement. They're too noisy, I said. But in my mind I was thinking, another mistake, poor Jack. No one in the school, except a few freshman and sophomore girls, worked as a regular library aide. No one. But then did that make any difference so far as Jack was concerned? His monstrous size and diffident manner made any kind of acceptance in the school out of the question anyway. He might just as well spend 6th period helping Mr. Scharf if he wanted to. It suddenly occurred to me that being a total outcast, as Jack was, might carry with it a certain compensation. Freedom. What's Mr. Scharf really like? I asked, remembering Miss De Lorenzo's suggestion for her replacement. He's not one of your backslappers, Jack began. That much I know, I interrupted. But he's been kind to me, Jack went on. I don't know why. Not buddy-buddy or anything. But he suggests books that I might like to read. Things like that. He knows I'm interested in the theater. Oh, are you? So's he, I understand. Jack nodded. I think you're the only student in the school who's had any contact at all with Mr. Scharf on a personal level, I said. Jack shrugged. Maybe so. He walked through the door into the library without mentioning the deodorant jar again. Well, so long, was all he said. Yeah, see you, I replied. Yeah. We're almost done. We're almost done with this chapter. Oh, I can see the light at the end of this fucking tunnel of shit. He's just so like it's just such false idealization of this fucking high school kid, and it's just During 6th period, I didn't think about Jack. But then, 7th period, I went to French class. There were only 10 of us in French 4. Joan was one of the 10. I sweated over the lists of irregular verbs, struggled with the weekly translations from La Rochefoucauld and Saint-Exupéry. Joan, on the other hand, learned French effortlessly and carried on conversations with Madame Santel in a flawless Parisian accent. Dog, fucking Herr Kraus and Madame Santel? Like, what the... like, come on, dude. Come on, dude. That never happens. That shit never happens. You, like, how often do you have the French teacher and the German teacher being actually fucking French and German people? That shit does not fucking happen, dude. You get, like... realistically, this should have been, like, Madame Smith. Anyway. In a flawless Parisian accent? Fuck you. You wouldn't even know. I didn't think it fair that in addition to her remarkable physical attributes and great popularity, Joan should also be smart. Of course, she wasn't as good at English or math. Dude, this is such a self-insert character. This is just such a self-insert, and it's so obvious. But she did well enough in all of her classes, and in French she outshone me as much as the sun does the moon. Baby, baby, baby. Look at me using funny little metaphors to explain how much more cool and popular this girl is with me, and how put down upon I am by it. I'm gonna kill myself. I comforted myself with the thought that for foreign languages one must have an inborn talent, a talent that I was simply without. There was no more point in lamenting that fact than there was in complaining because Joan's nose was classic and mine pugged, or because she had perfect full round breasts and I had a couple of enlarged pimples. Ugh. Why would you say that about yourself? Or because her skin was rosy and flawless, while mine was freckled, summer and winter. Was freckled summer and... as in, it didn't... as in the fact that you had freckles didn't change? Yeah, no shit. Okay. Joan shot me a cool, speculative glance as I took my seat. But I was late. Madame Santel was ready to begin la conversation, and Joan had no chance to speak to me until class was over. "Judy," she called across the room when the bell signaling the period's end had rung. "Wait for me." It did not occur to me to ignore her order. I waited. "What was that all about?" she asked me when she had reached my side. "What was what all about?" I returned. "That business with the deodorant. Why did you take it off Jack's locker door? I saw you do it." She had been in the girls' room after all. I should have checked first and not assumed that from across the hall I could tell whether the swinging door was open a crack or not. But if I had checked, I would never have had time to get the deodorant jar at all. What I had done had not saved Jack from embarrassment, but I knew it had made the embarrassment less. And so I decided to brazen the matter out. I thought you did a lousy thing to Jack," I said. "I thought it was unkind." We weren't unkind," Joan replied coldly. "Just the opposite. Giving him the deodorant was something only a friend would do. Margot told you that. He needs it." "Crap, Joan," I spit out. "That's just a lot of crap, and you know it." "You like him, don't you?" Joan grinned. "Sure I like him," I said. "He's a nice kid." "I mean you like him, really like him. You know what I mean." "I like him as a friend," I replied. "That's all. But I know you won't believe that. You'll believe just what you want to believe." "That's right," Joan replied, still grinning. "I will. But since I know now that you're his friend, you can tell him what he needs to know. I won't bother him again." So I had achieved something. Jack was safe from her, at least for the time being. What? Huh? What was that interaction? What was that dialogue? What? Huh? So this girl who's the it girl and she's a bully and she's popular is like makes fun of this girl who she's vaguely sort of friends with, but not really. She fakes like she's friends with this girl, Judy. And she pokes fun at her for befriending / having a crush on Fat Jack. And she's like, well, because of this, I'm going to stop making fun of Fat Jack now. Huh? Like, obviously she's not going to do that. But why would she say that? I don't know. It doesn't. This is not making sense to me. So I had achieved something. Jack was safe from her, at least for the time being. Why? And if he was safe from her, he was safe from Margot. Joan was the quieter member of that duo, but she was the boss. And then Al Monetto came by to pick up Joan and walk her to her next class. She'd been going with him since November, when he'd been named all-county halfback. Joan only dated stars, and usually changed boyfriends with the season. Al had lasted longer than most. Oh, I can't wait until the later chapter when we find out that Al actually has more going on to him than just being a dumb jock. Except actually that what's going to happen is the narrator is going to get that impression, but actually he is just fucking stupid because this author can't write intelligent dialogue. Kill me, kill me, kill me, kill me. She swept out of the door without saying anything more to me. Al put his arm around her. She nestled her body next to his, and they walked off down the hall perfectly in step. Al hadn't said hello to me, and he didn't say goodbye. I'd lived next door to him all my life. We'd played together in his backyard or mine every day from the time we were 2 until we were about 8 or 9. And after that, for 2 or 3 years, we continued to exchange gifts on our birthdays and fooled around together on Sunday afternoons when there wasn't anything else to do. He barely spoke to me if we met at school, but I hadn't thought anything of that. In 5th and 6th grades, boys and girls stayed far apart in public. But in 7th grade, for certain girls quite different from me, that all changed. It must have been in the early spring of that 7th grade year Joan invited us both to a party. We played kissing games in her basement. Al spun the bottle, and it pointed to me. When I stood up, I realized that all the boys in the room were snickering, and that the girls' faces wore narrow, condescending smiles. "Don't forget, it has to be on the lips," Bobby Earl called out. "That's one of the rules." "And you have to put your arms around her," Margot said. "That's another rule." "No, it isn't," Al protested. "You just made that up." "Well, it was a rule whenever we played before," Margot said. Before? They'd had parties like this before? I hadn't known. "But we didn't agree on arms ahead of time," Bobby pointed out in a reasonable tone. "You have to agree on all the rules in advance. You can't just throw them in at the last minute." Bobby's a gamer. Gamer, folks. Bobby's a gamer. Al didn't wait for any more discussion. Swiftly, he crossed the circle to where I was standing. By craning his neck forward, he managed to keep a remarkably wide distance between himself and me. He planted a very swift peck on my lips and hastily returned to his place. Later on, when he kissed Mary Alice, he put his arms around her, and everyone giggled as he held the kiss while Bobby counted slowly to 52. To 52? I do not buy that. I don't buy that. I just don't buy that. I don't buy that. You would not do that. I just don't buy that middle schoolers would make out for 52 seconds in front of a bunch of their friends. That there's just no world. There's no world in which, like, I so do not buy that. Anyway, I got out of Joan's basement before another spun bottle pointed at me. I realized what had happened. I'd turned into one of those junior high kids no one else will touch. On a scale of 1 to 10, I was -6. I hadn't known that until Joan's party. Once I had found out, I never let myself forget it. Fucking hell, dude. Fucking Barbara. Fucking Barbara. Fucking shit. This is just not... Oh, man. This is just bullshit. This is just not... This just does not feel like how middle schoolers would act to me in so many ways. And these just do not feel like real people in so many ways. They're just so archetypal and fucking boring. Oh my gosh. I'm almost done. We're almost done, folks. We've almost made it through. Fuck me. I stayed away from junior high dances and avoided boy-girl parties too, as much as I could. I pretended I didn't care. Once we got into high school, it wasn't so bad. By that time, everyone... There's a typo. By that time, it's supposed to say everyone, but there's an R missing. By that time, everyone was convinced that my pretense of not caring was sincere, and since kissing games were no longer the main activity at parties, I could attend them without fear of overt embarrassment. What? 7th grade. 7th grade, kissing games are the main activities at parties. Then you get to high school. Kissing games are no longer the main activities. What are the main activities then in this? Is it just hanging out and drinking and fucking? Is it like that they've moved beyond kissing games? I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't understand. And because this was written in 1980, right? So this is not 1980s culture. This is like 50s, 60s, maybe even... she was 48, so this is based on her high school experience. So this is going back like 30 years before. So this is like 40s. This is like 1940s. Presumably. Now it's making a little... Now some things are making a little more sense. This is... Right, this is 1940s high school, not 1980s high... Okay, 1970s. This is like 1940s high school experience. So fair enough. Like, okay, like, you know. Still, though. Once I got into high school, it wasn't so bad. By the time everyone was convinced that my pretense of not caring was sincere, blah, 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 I could attend them without fear. Not that I ever had fun at them, but I went now and again because my mother nagged me and I couldn't think of yet another excuse. Okay? After that night at Joan's house, when we were 12, Al ignored me. I returned the compliment. He had no doubt entirely forgotten summer afternoons in his treehouse, winter afternoons in my kitchen. For all I knew, he'd even forgotten Joan's party. But he hadn't forgotten that I wasn't the kind of girl he cared to be seen with. Obviously, Al has not forgotten the summer after... This is me saying this. Obviously, Al has not forgotten the fucking... This is so fucking stupid. I hate this fucking book. I fucking hate this fucking book so much. Oh, one more paragraph. Let's lock in. And since that night at Joan's, no boy had kissed me. Wah, wah, wah. No boy had so much as held my hand. There were guys who spoke to me, guys who joked with me and borrowed my homework, but they never suggested there could be more to our relationship than casual friendship, and neither did I. One wound like the one I'd gotten in 7th grade was sufficient to last a lifetime. I bet Barbara Cohen is still traumatized by some shit that happened in middle school. I want to burn this book. I want to set this book on fire. Yeah, that's what I want to do, I think. Well, this has been aggravating, but, you know, I hope that people get some amount of enjoyment out of it. Yeah, I'm gonna throw this book at something right now, and then sometime later, I think I'm gonna set it on fire. All right, let's give a good honest chuck at the wall here. Yeah. Ooh, it broke. It definitely broke. Oh, the front cover is no longer on the book. Oh, man. And that was a reading of Chapter 1 of Fat Jack by fucking Barbara Cohen, folks.